Imagine for a moment that everything you've ever learned about sacred history is just the shell, the surface of an ocean of untold mysteries. What if I told you that behind the words of Jesus, there are hidden messages, living symbols, forgotten codes, and teachings so deep they were carefully kept out of your sight? What if the real Christ wasn't just the master of love and forgiveness, but also the bearer of a wisdom so powerful it could forever change how you see the universe, the divine, and even yourself? Yes, get ready, because what you're about to discover might just flip your entire view of spirituality upside down. Before we go on, drop a comment below. Do you believe there's more than what religions have taught us? Now let's walk together through the veils of forgetfulness and dive into the hidden teachings of Jesus, the ones that were erased, silenced, or deliberately left out over the centuries. And by the end of this journey, you'll come face to face with a teaching so intimate, so revealing, that maybe you'll never see yourself the same way again. For millennia, the image of Jesus has been tied to the cross, to suffering, to compassion. But what if that image is just a fragment of the truth? What if, hidden within his parables, lie spiritual keys, codes of awakening that he left not just to comfort, but to activate? Jesus didn't come just to save, he came to reveal. And many still haven't understood what he truly brought us. In many mystical traditions, Jesus isn't seen just as a prophet, but as an enlightened master, an initiator into the great mysteries, a deep knower of the secrets of the soul, the spirit, and the cosmos. But then, why were so many of his teachings erased from the official history? In the early centuries of Christianity, there were dozens of texts, gospels, and accounts that freely circulated among the first followers. Texts that spoke of the power of self-knowledge, of inner connection, and of awakening the divine within us. But these ideas threatened the ruling powers, and so they were deemed dangerous, they were hidden. And with them, part of Christ's true light was dimmed. Among these texts, one of the most powerful ever discovered stands out: the Gospel of Thomas. In it, Jesus doesn't just speak of faith, but of awakening, of looking within, of remembering who you truly are beyond the material world. And in one of his most powerful sayings, he declares, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. But if you do not bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you." What does this really mean? It's a key, a cosmic password, a calling. Jesus is telling us that inside you there's a forgotten light, a divine spark, a sacred, silent core that holds all the truth you've been searching for outside. If you access that light, it will set you free. It will heal you. It will awaken you to who you truly are. But if you ignore it, you'll live a blind life, trapped in fear, illusion, and a void that can never be filled. That light is the very presence of God within you. And maybe, just maybe, Christ's greatest miracle wasn't turning water into wine or walking on water, but reminding us that the kingdom of God isn't out there, it's within us. And that is what many don't want you to discover. This teaching deeply echoes the ancient principles of esoteric traditions. The Hermetic axiom reveals a timeless secret: as above, so below; as within, so without. This is the key to understanding what Jesus truly offered, an invitation to look inward, to discover that the kingdom of God isn't some faraway heaven, but the pure silence of the awakened soul, here and now. But there's an even more hidden pillar within his words, the teaching about the ego, that fragile, constructed identity full of masks and labels, which we accept as who we are. He challenged us when he said, "Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it." This isn't about physical death. It's a profound call to transcend the ego, to die to the illusion of the limited me, and awaken to the higher truth of the I am. The Gnostics, early Christians once persecuted for their vision, understood this mystery like no one else. For them, salvation wasn't about blind obedience to dogma. It was about awakening gnosis, the direct, intimate knowledge of the soul's connection to the Supreme Source. They believed Jesus didn't come to be a distant God to be worshipped, but to reveal the inner God, the divine that lives within each human being. According to these Gnostic texts, Jesus shared his deepest teachings in secret only with those who were spiritually ready. Because, as he himself said, not everyone has eyes to see or ears to hear. True wisdom isn't for just anyone. It's for those who seek it with sincerity and courage. Now, one question still echoes through time. If this knowledge was so powerful, so capable of transforming lives, why was it hidden? The answer is simple and unsettling. A truly awakened human being cannot be controlled. Someone who discovers the light within, who accesses the divine inside their own being, needs no intermediaries. They cannot be manipulated because they are free. And that freedom has always been the greatest threat to any empire, to any system that feeds on fear and ignorance. Jesus didn't just come to teach a path. He was, and is, the path. A living mirror of what each one of us can become when we awaken to our Christic essence. And maybe, just maybe, all he truly wanted was for you to finally remember that. But the structures of power, both religious and political, have always had a quiet yet relentless interest in keeping humanity confined within certain boundaries of thought. Walls were built, dogmas imposed, intermediaries placed between man and the divine, and then Jesus appeared with his revolutionary message of spiritual freedom, inner transcendence, and the sovereignty of the soul, a presence that not only inspired, but deeply unsettled, a real threat to those who thrived on fear, ignorance, and collective control. But stop and reflect deeply. Is Jesus' message really limited to what we've been traditionally taught? Or could there be something much deeper, more revealing, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for eyes willing to see? To see beyond the surface, we must step off the script, break out of the conventional frame, go beyond the canonized texts, beyond the official interpretations passed down through the centuries as absolute truths. Because Jesus did not appear in a vacuum. His message was born from ancient spiritual roots, intertwined with ancestral traditions that had traveled through time. From ancient Egypt, from India, from the Essenes, and many other paths of light. Take the Essenes, for example, a community of mystics and sages living near the Dead Sea. They were devoted to silence, fasting, purity, deep meditation, and self-knowledge. Coincidence? John the Baptist, Jesus' great forerunner, had strong ties to this group. And the similarities don't stop there. The Essenes philosophy pulses in the words of Christ. When he said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he was echoing wisdom that had been cultivated for centuries by those sacred seekers. But what if Jesus' spiritual journey went even further? There are ancient records from the East, especially from India and Nepal, that speak of a master known as Isa, a name used for Jesus, who is said to have lived among Buddhist monks in the Himalayas during his youth. There, he would have learned about compassion, detachment, and the illusory nature of matter, the same core teachings he later shared with the Western world. And what's extraordinary, these teachings weren't brand new. They aligned with truths that had been spoken in the East long before his birth. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, spoke of ego, suffering, and the liberation of the mind. And centuries later, Jesus pointed to the same paths using different words, different metaphors. In ancient Egypt, the Hermetic masters already said, "All is mind. The universe is mental." And when Jesus declared, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believing, you shall receive," he wasn't promoting blind faith. He was revealing a profound spiritual code, the creative power of consciousness, of pure intention, of faith rooted in the truth of being. This connection between mind, spirit, and manifestation is scattered throughout his parables. Take the parable of the sower. It's not just a lesson about belief, it's a key of consciousness. The soil represents the mind. Fertile ground symbolizes open, receptive consciousness. Dry soil reflects hearts hardened by fear and ego. So the big question is, what kind of soil are you cultivating? And when he said, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. He wasn't just talking about prayer. He was handing over a spiritual code. Truth doesn't force its way in, that it reveals itself, but only to those who thirst, who have the courage to walk, and a heart ready to open the doors of perception. Not everyone is ready for this. That's why Jesus warned, do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine. This isn't disdain. It's ancestral wisdom. The sacred must be honored, because in the wrong hands, it can be twisted, mocked, forgotten. And how many times has that already happened? Throughout history, true masters have been silenced, and with Jesus, it was no different. His mission was never to create a religion, but to dissolve the invisible prisons that limit the human soul. He came to liberate, not to bind, to awaken, not to control, to reveal the divine within, not to place a distant throne out of reach. But what happens when someone dares to speak a truth that shakes the very foundations of the world? When someone boldly proclaims that true power doesn't lie in institutions, in temples or dogmas, but within each and every human being, they become dangerous. A living threat to the system that feeds on fear and control. That person is persecuted, silenced, ridiculed, or, in darker times, crucified. But there is one thing no empire has ever been able to stop: the truth. Because the truth, it doesn't die. It only transforms and is reborn. It finds secret paths, opens cracks where the light slips through. Even when all seems lost, the truth whispers to those who dare to listen. Jesus didn't speak to sleeping crowds. He spoke to restless hearts, to the eyes still searching, to those who knew, deep in their soul, that there was something beyond the surface.
He didn't come to be followed blindly. He came to stir, to awaken. His words weren't commands, they were keys, and each parable, each metaphor, each symbol carried an invitation. An invitation for each of us to find, on our own, what lies beyond the veil. That's why he spoke in codes. Not out of arrogance, but because true knowledge can't be handed over. It must be discovered. And that discovery takes courage. Courage to question, courage to unlearn, courage to go beyond what was said and touch the source of what is real. In one of the most powerful moments of his journey, Jesus declared, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." But what truth was he talking about? For centuries, this phrase has been interpreted as a call to blind obedience, as if the truth were a fixed set of rules. But what if it's not? What if that truth is a living experience? A state of consciousness that dissolves fear, breaks illusion, heals pain, and reconnects you to the source. Jesus said, "I and the Father are one." That wasn't a statement of exclusivity, it was a revelation, a reminder of what we also are. Because what is true for one is true for all. He didn't place himself above us, he placed himself as a mirror, so that when we looked at him, we could see ourselves, the divine spark within each of us, the sacred presence living inside. A direct link to the all, with no intermediaries, no hierarchies, and no fear. This same truth echoes through the ages. In Vedanta, Atman is Brahman, the inner self is the all. In Hermetic wisdom, the all is mind and the universe is mental. In the heart of the Tao, which cannot be named,
only lived. Everything, absolutely everything, points in the same direction. Divinity is not outside, it is within. When Jesus said the kingdom of God doesn't come with visible signs, but that it is already within you, he was breaking down millennia of separation, dissolving the line between the human and the sacred. He didn't teach a religion, he taught an inner revolution. And that is exactly why his message was seen as so dangerous. Just imagine, what if everyone knew they don't need temples to find God, that they don't need priests to mediate their connection to the divine? That salvation isn't some distant promise, but a state of awareness available now? What would happen to those who control through fear? The whole system would collapse. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus shares one of his most mysterious and profound teachings. When you make the two one, and the inner as the outer, then you will enter the kingdom. That phrase holds the code of the great spiritual work, the alchemy of the soul. It's the union of opposites, the merging of the visible with the invisible, the integration of body and spirit, reason and intuition, light and shadow. This same wisdom is found in medieval alchemy, in the Kabbalah, in Taoism. Every tradition that has stood the test of time points to this one truth. Awakening is internal. It's a sacred reconstruction of the self, a living remembrance of who you truly are, beyond the name, beyond the story, beyond the world. But if Jesus carried such deep knowledge, if he knew the divine lives in each of us, if his message was one of freedom, not submission, then why was he condemned? Because he taught something those in power could never allow, that God's power doesn't belong to the few, it belongs to all. Now, close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and get ready to feel. Jesus was not crucified for healing the sick, nor for multiplying bread. He was crucified because he told the people something that shook the foundations of power. The kingdom of God is within you. He awakened consciousness, freed minds, tore through the veil of illusion, and that made him a threat. But his message did not die on the cross. It survived through persecution, distortion, and silence, and it made its way, all the way here, to you. Because this truth doesn't belong to the past. It's alive, vibrant, pulsing in the now. And if you've heard this message to the end, maybe you're ready to receive what was never taught, but has always lived inside you. Jesus didn't just bring faith, he brought keys, spiritual keys hidden between the lines of his words, sacred codes disguised as metaphors, waiting for eyes that know how to see and ears that dare to hear. Now, we've arrived at the pinnacle of our journey. Together we've explored the forgotten teachings of Jesus, his vision of awakening consciousness, the inner divinity, and the kingdom of God, not as something external, but as something that lives within each human being. But there's something more. One final teaching, a secret, so powerful, so transformative, that it's been silenced, twisted, and hidden for centuries, not because it was dangerous, but because it set people free. Before we reveal this final key, pause for a moment and reflect on one of the most mysterious things Jesus ever said. Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. At first glance, it sounds like a call to sacrifice, but is it really? What if Jesus wasn't talking about the death of the body, but the death of the ego, the false self, the one that lives in fear, guilt, vanity, and in the illusion of separation? This is the core of all great spiritual teachings, to die to the old self and be reborn into truth. In Buddhism, it's called transcending the ego. In alchemy, it's the symbolic death of lead, so that gold may rise. In Jesus' path, it's the cross, followed by resurrection. He wasn't just acting out a historical drama. He was living in front of our very eyes the greatest spiritual mystery of all. inner liberation. The cross represents surrender, letting go, the end of illusion. The resurrection is awakened consciousness, free, alive, united with the divine. Jesus left us clues, hidden keys, enigmatic phrases carrying spiritual codes. And in the Gospel of Thomas, he reveals one of the deepest of all. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring it forth, what is within you will destroy you. This is the final revelation, the secret of all secrets. Salvation isn't outside you. It never was. It doesn't depend on rituals, dogmas, institutions, or intermediaries. It is born from silence, from turning inward, from awakening the divine spark that's been sleeping inside you all along. But then, why was this teaching hidden? Because it puts the power in the hands of the individual. It makes every human being free, and a soul that's awake can't be controlled. This truth breaks the foundation of a system that feeds on spiritual dependence. It reveals something deep and dangerous. You are a living temple of the divine. Jesus didn't come to create a religion. He came to reveal a state of consciousness. He didn't bring rules. He brought pathways. He didn't offer external salvation. He offered remembrance of who you've always been. And now, let me ask you directly, are you ready to wake up? Because knowing isn't enough. Repeating words doesn't bring transformation. True wisdom isn't memorized, it's lived. Jesus didn't just talk about truth, he became the truth in flesh, and that's what he expects from you. Not just belief, but embodiment. Not just to follow, but to become. If you truly want to awaken, start with one simple but powerful step. Look within. Ask yourself, where in my life am I still choosing fear over love? What beliefs are keeping me trapped in pain? Am I living from my essence, or just playing the role others expect of me? And above all, remember the phrase that so few have truly understood: you will do even greater things than these. Jesus didn't come to show what he could do. He came to remind us what we are capable of. When we awaken, when we stop searching outside ourselves and finally turn our gaze inward, here's the final secret. The kingdom of God is not some distant place you go to. It's a state of consciousness that reveals itself in here. Now, there's no real distance between you and the divine, except the one you've created. And when those inner walls come down, when the noise of the world fades, when your heart opens wide, then, and only then, you'll find the truth that sets you free. If you've made it this far, it's because something deep inside you is calling for more, for a purer truth, a sharper awareness, and a more intimate connection with the unseen force that gives shape to the visible. And now, I want to share with you something that will expand your consciousness even further. Get ready to take the next step. I present to you the Map of the Higher Self, a powerful e-book born from my most intense and authentic experiences. It brings together practices, insights, and mental keys that will guide you on a path of clarity, presence, and inner awakening. But it doesn't stop there. When you get the book, you'll also receive free access to the Sacred Library, an exclusive digital collection of rare, forbidden works removed from our history, hidden texts that reveal what has been concealed from humanity for centuries and is now within your reach. This map is not just a book, it's a tool for transformation. If you've arrived here, it's no accident. This is a sign. You're ready to elevate your perception and take control of your own reality. Click the link in the pinned comment and dive into this journey of self-knowledge with courage, focus, and awareness. And don't stop here. I've handpicked 2 essential videos that will expand even further everything we explored today. Choose one and keep exploring the deeper layers of your being. Remember, the truth is not found in the noise of the world, but in the silent voice of awakening consciousness.